1 week down, 8 to go. Shroomraver's win in the first battle against Iron Boffin was useful, but he was hardly making waves just yet. The other winners in his division were streets ahead, and they were already expanding their territories. Joey Know-How had weathered the storm and pushed Mr. Onesie back across the river, while the Gentleman Mounte had been unflinching in dealing with Necro Stevo. Clearly the threat of the Velvet Man wasn't enough to scare him. On top of that, Commissioner Elliot stuck it to the Mafia Kingpin himself, Don Mephisto. Can't imagine he was all too happy about it, but we had other things on our plate. Vepsis was the man I was focused on. It hadn't been 2 days since I called up Seabad to see if he had anything for me, and Vepsis had gone ahead and soundly beaten him. If I didn't know any better, I would say he was sending me a message. I'd hoped that Chase would have been able to get me some useful information, and as soon as I tried, Vepsis was there to make sure he didn't tell any tales. Makes sense. He was a man on a mission after his ignominious exit from playoffs last time around. But word was he was already making moves towards DLPD-controlled areas at Draft League City. And you gotta know, I couldn't have that. His guys were all about staying power, so we couldn't afford the inevitable battle degenerating into a war of attrition. What's more, I heard Eli the Snitch had gone to ground after his scare in the first fight, but thankfully our squad was full of heavy hitters. If Shroom could draw him into the open, he and his boys would have nowhere to run. But Vepsis weren't born yesterday. He's a smart guy, and he's been doing this a long-ass time. I just hoped Shroom had enough wits about him to avoid letting this drag on too long, because the longer this battle went on, the less chance he'd have of coming out on top.
Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome to Pokémon Premier League Season 3, Week 2. Yes indeed, last time we got off to a good start, managing to get a win over Iron Boffin, but the job doesn't get any easier. Detective Inspector Striker has got us to investigate and battle against Vepsis this week and the Helsinki Hydreigons. Here's links down in the description below along with everyone else in the league, make sure you check them out. I didn't get the chance to play against Vepsis last season, but it looks like he is on a bit of a revenge push after what happened, looking to stake his claim in Draft League City. So, not going to be an easy one to take on. His team, as you can see, he has Tornadus Therian, Galarian Slowking, Mienshao, Hydreigon, Swampert, Hydrapple, Diancie, Fortress, Staraptor, and Crabominable. So, very threatening team there with a lot of bulk going on, massive regenerator happening there with a fair few different game modes that he can employ. So our strategy going into this battle, there goes my, that. A little bit of darkness going on as my Switch nearly died. But our strategy going into this game is really threefold. Number one, keep consistent damage on that big regenerator core. Two is absolutely under no circumstances do we allow him to set up Trick Room. And number three, identify those Scarfers very, very quickly. All of that is in place for our first team member, Life Orb Greninja, to sweep. We have Battle Bond, we have Life Orb, we have Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, and Spikes. We've just gone max on special attack and speed with a timid nature. Again, I don't want that Tornadus to be outspeeding me under any circumstances. Especially since it got all 6 kills in his last game, so we cannot afford for that to happen. Spikes are really there just in case we get an opportunity. I don't think we will, but realistically we should only need Hydro Pump, Ice Beam and Dark Pulse to power through him in the end game. So next up to enable that, we have Swords Dance, Ogerpon, Cornerstone here. With Ivy Cudgel, Trailblaze and Low Kick, max attack 216 into speed. That will be allowing us, I believe, to outrun the Staraptor. Swords Dance just to power on through. Realistically, Ivy Cudgel and Trailblaze do a lot of damage to everything on his team that isn't that Terra Steel Hydrapple. It could go Fairy, I think it's going to go Steel. His other Terra Captain, incidentally, is the Staraptor, but I don't think that'll be Terroring this time around, just because the Hydrapple is so necessary for Ogerpon. That's why we have Low Kick, it's really the only reason it's on there. Ivy Cudgel Trailblaze should do for the rest of his team. Next up, we have Citrus Berry Mew. This is a fully specially defensive set with Taunt, Stealth Rock, Nightshade, and Knockoff. I do want to try and get rocks up if I can. That will really help to try and wear down his Regenerator switch-ins as they come in. Taunt is absolutely necessary here. I cannot afford to let him get up a Trick Room, not with that Galarian Slowking, and especially not with the Diancie. The Diancie can ruin me under Trick Room, so I cannot let that happen whatsoever. Nightshade is there for consistent damage. Knockoff is there again to try and get rid of any of those Choice Scarfs that he might have kicking around for my Greninja late game. I was originally going to try and run a trapping set with Fire Spin, but I would need to catch a Slowking coming in, and there was no guarantee that would happen, so rocks are going to be much more useful for me. In order to also help break for Greninja, we have another Swords Dance Mon here, another Swords Dance Trailblaze Mon, in fact, in Roselli Berry Haxorus, also packing Dragon Claw and Earthquake. Earthquake is kind of free into his team. There's a few things here and there that will stop that. The likes of the Tornadus, which I should be able to still try and tank a hit from with hefty special defense investment, 172 special defense on there. 84 speed is basically enough to hit that gap between, I believe it is the Hydreigon, and then straight down to the Swampert. He's got quite a big speed gap there. But this is looking to just break certain stuff. I've got both Swords Dance users there to try and get consistent damage on that Regenerator core. Roselli Berry in case I need to take a hit in a pinch from the Diancie. Next up on the team as I scroll down my own list, we have Eject Pack Chandelure going on here. Very specially defensive, max special attack modest, 212 into special defense, 44 into speed again, just to outspeed those base 60s and below. Fire Blast, Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, and Ovi. Now, Chandelure is actually quite good into his team, especially if that is going to be the Terra Steel Hydrapple. But there are two very good switch-ins to this, this Chandelure, those being the Hydreigon and the Diancie. Now, they are both very good into my team, and I cannot afford to let them have initiative on me, which is why we have Eject Pack Overheat. As soon as Chandelure hits the field, that's what I'm clicking no matter what's in front of me, because one of those two will be coming in, and I don't want them getting initiative on me whatsoever. The rest of the moves on there, Fire Blast, Shadow Ball hit him very hard indeed. Energy Ball pretty much there for that Swampert, and again the Diancie if I need to. So final member of the team is going to be second Citrus Berry user. It is Grimmsnarl going on here. We've got 72 HP, 168 attack, max special defense, careful natured with 16 into speed just to creep things, Taunt, Spirit Break, Crunch, and Sucker Punch. I am a little bit afraid of Trick Room, so Sucker Punch is going to be quite nice if he's staying in with the Galarian Slowking. Spirit Break, Crunch, pretty standard, and again, Taunt on there. I cannot let him get up a Trick Room, nor can I really afford to let him get up Toxic Spikes or indeed a Chilly Reception. So Grimmsnarl, if it has to taunt and go down, so be it. But yeah, that is the team I am rocking going into this match. So let's get into the starting screen and see what Vepsis brought against me. So, as you can see, Vepsis has decided to bring Hydrapple, Hydreigon, Staraptor, Diancie, Slowking, and Mienshao. So no Tornadus is really nice. He has a potential Trick Room option there. He has plenty of potential Scarfers, and he's brought his bulkiest Regenerator Mon. So my plan, as I was always going to do from the start, is going to be leading with my Mew, make sure he cannot get Trick Room off the bat, and see where we go from there. So here we go against Vepsis and the Helsinki Hydreigons. There he is. He is going to lead straight off with Staraptor, as I am going to go with Mew. Now this is a potential Scarfer. I am specially defensive, but I will still take it, especially if the Hydrapple is going to be as Terra Captain as I suspect. So I'm just going to go for a knockoff here. If he's scarfed or banded, I want to get rid of that choice item as quickly as possible so that he can't outspeed Greninja without a boost or get banded quick attacks off if that's what he's going for. As it turns out, he's going to surprise me and go straight for Final Gambit Frame 1. That doesn't take out my Mew because I am invested fully in HP, and just to help me out even more, I'm going to get my Citrus Berry back to a respectable amount of health. Now my knockoff is going to be wasted, but already a big threat to my team is gone in front of me, which is really useful for me, and we're playing a 6-5 game straight off the bat. Now Vepsis wants to get back to parity as quickly as possible, is going to go into one of the big threats in the form of Hydreigon. Now, I don't think he wants to particularly mess around, having gone 6-5 down off his own Final Gambit immediately, so I'm just going to go into Big Tony Valier here, not predicting him to go for a Flash Cannon straight away. I think the Dark Pulse is just the safe play, maybe even the U-turn, but either way, Grimmsnarl is going to hit the field. I'm fully specially defensive, and he is going to go for the Dark Pulse. That's going to do basically nothing. If he's scarfed, he's going to have to get out of there and can't afford to U-turn, so I'm just going to go for the safe Spirit Break here and see what his answer to Grimmsnarl is going to be. Now he's playing it scarfed, he only really has one switch in to Fairy Stab, and that is going to be the Galarian Slowking, and as you see, that is what he opts to do. Now I'm going to get a Spirit Break off here. It's not going to do a whole huge amount, and this is where something quite interesting is going to happen. As you'll see, an item is going to proc. He has a red card. Wasn't quite expecting that, but it means no Culber Berry, which is super nice, and I'm going to get a switch into Ogerpon. Now, the way he's brought this in and the way it's on his team, he might very well be a specially defensive build. So my play every day is to just go for Ivy Cudgel. Remember, I want to keep his Regenerator Core at as manageable amount of health as possible, as often as possible, to enable Greninja late game. So Ivy Cudgel is going to be my play here, and we'll see what his answer to Ogerpon is going to be right about now. So he is going to withdraw, fully cementing my mind he's probably a specially defensive variant, and he is going to go out into Brad, that's the Hydrapple, and we're going to go for Ivy Cudgel. Now he's not Terrad, but even so, that does not do a whole huge amount, implying that this is going to be his physical wall. Now, I am fully expecting him to go Terra Steel here, just to get that off in front of my Ogerpon, and maybe even go for a Terra Blast to do big damage. So I do have a very specially defensive answer to this guy in the back, and that is my Chandelure, so that is what I'm going to go into. So, gonna call Jimmy the Face on back, and for the first time this season, the Sommelier Chandelure is going to hit the field, and as you'll see, this is where the Terra is going to pop, and I'm just thinking, please be Steel, please don't be Fairy, and as you'll see, survey says it's going to be Steel. So he did manage to nail that prediction, which is really useful, and given that he's very physically defensive, clearly, I don't think he's got any special attack investment. As you'll see, that does less than 100 points of damage, so it's looking like he's just fully Fizz Death here to deal with Ogerpon. Now my play doesn't change. I said from the start, as soon as Chandelure's in for the first time, I'm clicking Overheat and getting out of there with my Jetpack. He doesn't want to stay in here. That much is very obvious. He has two good answers to me, and he's going to make the much more immediately offensive bring, and that's going to be the Hydreigon. But this is better for me, because Overheat, as you'll see, going to do a clean like 35-40%, which is really useful, and the Eject Pack is going to pop. So I'm going to be able to get on out of there and not give him initiative into one of his most threatening offensive builds. Now, obviously, Grimmsnarl is going to be the one I go into here. I will take a Flash Cannon from this guy if that's what he chooses to go to, especially if he is indeed like a timid Scarf set. So I'm very free once again to go for Spirit Break. He's going to go for U-turn, which is going to do a decent chunk to me. And this is really cementing in my mind that this is going to be his Scarfer. Now, the switch into Glowking is really obvious, but Spirit Break is going to lower its special attack, and as you'll see, that is going to be the option he goes for. In comes Galarian Slowking. I'm going to get the Spirit Break off. It's going to do a little bit less than last time, but as I say, I get that special attack drop, and what that means is I'm not overly fearing a Sludge Bomb or Sludge Wave, and I can just lock in on Taunt. I cannot let him get up a Trick Room. Absolutely not. And as you'll see, he is actually going to go for the Toxic Spikes, which works out nicely as well. That would have been incredibly detrimental to me if he'd managed to get those up. And now, I'm very free to just go for a Crunch. I don't really fear too much coming in. The Diancie could be an issue. But there's also the option that he goes into that and I can try and pull a double. And that is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try and get cheeky, and I'm going to go into Ogerpon, predicting that Diancie to want to be the one to come in. So, as you see, I'm going to pull the double. I'm going to get out of there with Grimmsnarl, and I'm going to make the very offensive double into my Ogerpon. Now, obviously, I still have my Sturdy intact, but he is going to make the switch. He doesn't want to take a crunch. He's going to get him out of there, and he's actually going to go into his Hydreigon. Now, this works out quite nicely for me, because his switch into this is very likely the Hydrapple. Now that means that I can go for low kick here. I didn't want to go for a Swords Dance because he could be packing moves to 2-hit KO me, so I really just have to go for an attack. Low kick's going to be the play because once again, his switch into this every day is going to be that physically defensive Hydrapple. Now he's going to U-turn. That absolutely proves that he is indeed Choice Scarfed Hydreigon. Does just under half to me, which is fine, I guess. But like I say, I'm very much predicting the Hydrapple to come in. So I've locked in on low kick. It would have done monumental damage if it stayed in and gone for, say, a Dark Pulse or a Draco Meteor. But as you'll see, in comes Brad. It's the Hydrapple. We go for low kick. He's very well prepared for that exact eventuality. He has the Troupple Berry, and that is going to do absolutely nothing to me. However, he didn't go for Terra Blast last time. I'm starting to think maybe he doesn't have it at all. So while I'm considering if I want to switch into anything, what I'm eventually going to decide to do, as you'll see in a minute here, is go for Swords Dance, because I don't think he can take me out. I'm betting on him not being able to. So I want to be able to get a really big low kick off and hopefully try and take him from the field of play. So, going to make the ballsy play here and go for Swords Dance. He is going to stay in. That was never really in doubt. He's going to go for Fickle Beam, but as you'll see, with no special attack investment, that's not going to take me out from there. So now, I have the opportunity to get a really big low kick off. It's looking like it might not KO, but the whole plan with this regen core was keep them low. And this is going to put him in a really low range of health if it doesn't take him out. So we go for the low kick, and as you'll see, it comes perilously close to taking him out, but it doesn't quite get the job done. So Ogerpon, unfortunately, is going to go down without getting a KO here, but it has put this Hydrapple at a very low range of health, which is what we need for a potential endgame sweep with Greninja. This was one of the big things standing in the way of that if it was at good enough health, but we can easily revenge this guy with most anything that I've got on the team. Now, Haxorus is going to be my play here. Now, here's where some things happen. Unnerve pops off because I don't want these things eating berries in front of me. Now, I figured he might want to save this and get some regen back. He's seen that there is no Mold Breaker. He will know that I should have Earthquake, so I thought he might want to get really offensive and pull a double into his Hydreigon, knowing that he would outspeed me. So I'm actually going to go for a Dragon Claw here, and kind of hope if he stays in that it's enough to take him out. I am very offensive. I'm adamant. I have max attack. This is a stab Dragon Claw. And it's looking like it's in range where it might get the job done. Again, I consider Earthquake, but again, he can regen on this. He does have an immunity in the form of that Hydreigon. So in the end, I'm going to click Dragon Claw and kind of hit and hope. So Dragon Claw comes in, and it doesn't take him out. He is going to go for Fickle Beam, and that's going to come close. If he'd have got the boosted Fickle Beam, that would have been the end of Haxorus. So we get fortunate there. We kind of threw a little bit, but we're not punished unduly. And what that does mean is, at that range of health, I can go for a Trailblaze, and that will knock him out and put Haxorus at +1 speed. So, going to go for the Trailblaze here. That is going to pick up the KO on Hydrapple and increase my Haxorus' speed. So, one of the regen mons is now gone, and he is now facing down a very powerful +1 speed Hydreigon. Now, if that is in fact modest Haxorus, Hydreigon was on the mind, because if he's modest, I will actually probably outspeed him. So now he has to work out what he's going to go into, and it's going to end up being the Mienshao. Now I'm going to stay in here and click Dragon Claw. If he is not Scarf, this will do monumental damage, if not just straight up Oko. But if he is, it will reveal his cheeky second Scarfer. I need that information, so I'm willing to let Haxorus go if it means I can get that. And as you'll see, this is Scarfed Mienshao. He goes for Knockoff. That's going to take out my Haxorus, but he is now locked in to Knockoff. Gets rid of my Roselia Berry, doesn't matter. He's locked in on knockoff. That is a very, very easy switch into my Grimmsnarl to be able to deal big damage to whatever his switching is going to be. So, Grimmsnarl going to come out and hit the field here. Now, I know he's locked in. He has to be Scarfed in order to have outpaced my +1 Haxorus. His switching every time has been that Galarian Slowking. So, knowing that he's going to have to switch out with this Mienshao, I'm going to click Crunch. It will do more to him than Knockoff will do to me for sure, and he is going to make that play, switching out his Scarf Mienshao, and he's going to go back into the Glowking. Now, this is at full health, but this Crunch is going to do huge damage. Massive damage, easy 2-shot even without the defense drop. So Grimmsnarl is looking really good here. I want to get this thing out of the way. It's another thing that might be able to stop my Greninja if he's able to regen back enough health. So I'm just going to go for another Crunch. If he switches into Diancie, I'll just taunt it. If he switches into something else, then frankly Grimmsnarl should be good to stay in. Now Vepsis thought about this one for a while. In the end, he is going to give me the Glowking. We go for Crunch. Grimmsnarl picks up his first KO of the season, and now the two very bulky regen mons on Vepsis' side are both gone. Grimmsnarl looking really good. He's got Scarf Hydreigon, Scarf Mienshao, and a full health Diancie left to go against the rest of my team. Now, Vepsis is going to go into Diancie. This is a very good play on his part. I cannot afford to let him get up a Trick Room. Now, Grimmsnarl is really good into his last two mons, but I cannot afford to let him get up a Trick Room. If he Trick Rooms here, he does just win the game. So I am forced to go for a taunt and potentially let my Grimmsnarl, who's really good against his last two mons, go down. But it's going to be better for me in the long run because, as I say, if I let his Diancie get up a Trick Room with the range of health the rest of my mons are at, he does just win this game right now. So I cannot let that happen. Taunt has to come in. If he Moonblasts and takes me out, so be it. As you'll see, Taunt is going to come in on the Diancie, and he is just going to straight up go for the Moonblast. Now, I am specially defensive, but that's not going to save me. However, it was a risk, or basically, I had to do that. Because if he had gone for Trick Room, look at the rest of my team, he wins. So I'm actually going to go into my Mew here, as opposed to going for the kill with Greninja. Here's the reasoning. Diancie can be built to take hits from Greninja before it gets its Battle Bond boost. And the big threat on his team at the moment, other than this guy in the Trick Room, is actually that Mienshao. Now I need my Ghost type and my Dark type to try and make sure that he cannot counter sweep me at the end with the Mienshao. So I'm going to go into Mew to try and get chip damage onto this Diancie with Nightshade. Now Vepsis is going to get on out of there with the Diancie. So he might have a plan with that end game, and he's going to go into Hydreigon to take the Nightshade. Now he will take any hit from Mew, and he will be able to very easily revenge me. But Mew has really run its race here. I am going to go for the knockoff, I believe, just in case he wants to try and get cheeky. A U-turn might not take me out from this range, and he might go into, I don't know, probably the Diancie, and I'll be able to knock off. But realistically, I just have to stay in with Mew and see what happens. So Hydreigon is going to go for Dark Pulse. That is going to take out my Mew from there, especially defensive or no. So Mew goes down, and now it is 3v2. He's got two Scarfers and a Diancie left, but we are not wasting any time, ladies and gentlemen, because it is time to pull the trigger on Greninja. Now from this range, knowing that he's Scarfed, Hydro Pump will take him out. He's locked into Dark Pulse. He will not be able to take me out from here. I'm going to click Hydro Pump. It's my best bet in case he does decide to switch into something else, and hopefully we can get a late game Battle Bond sweep going. So here we go. Vepsis is going to go for Dark Pulse. That's going to do just under 100 points of damage. I'm going to go for Hydro Pump with Greninja, and as you'll see, that is going to take out the Hydreigon. Down it goes, and we are going to get our Battle Bond. Now we're at +1 speed, +1 special attack. Life Orb +1 Hydro Pump will take out the Diancie, and +1 speed is going to outrun the Scarf Mienshao. So we are looking in a really favourable position here. So Diancie is going to hit the field once again, but even if he's very specially defensive, he will not be living this Hydro Pump. And then he goes for Endure, and I panic, because that means he's got a plan. We go for Hydro Pump, and we miss. That's pretty huge. I will tell you why. Because that is a red card Diancie. Vepsis did have a plan, and it was very well thought out. In the event of me getting up Battle Bond with Greninja, he goes into this red card Diancie, endures, and forces me out so that one of his Scarfers, in this case Mienshao, would still outspeed me. As it is, I don't begrudge him trying to go for it again, but he doesn't get the Endure off. We are going to go for that Hydro Pump. That is going to clean take out the Diancie from there, and because we take him down, that red card does not activate. So now all Vepsis has left is this Mienshao, but we do still have our Battle Bond intact. We are going to go for the Hydro Pump. We are going to land this one. That is going to come in on the Mienshao. Down it goes, and ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be the game. Wow. What do we say about that? Very interesting one. Great game to Vepsis. A pleasure to finally get to play against you, my man. Remember, his links are down in the description along with everybody else's. That end game, wow. Like I said during the narration, I didn't really get too much time to go too far into it. Vepsis had 3 Scarfers on his team because the Staraptor was as well. He had 2 red card users. That was his end game counter strategy against Greninja Battle Bond, knowing that it was a threat to him. He has this red card Diancie. The plan there was to endure on my Battle Bond Greninja's Hydro Pump, live the hit and force me out with the red card. That gets rid of my Battle Bonds, and that then allows his saved Scarfer Mienshao to outspeed once again. Very, very good strategy. Brilliant mind Vepsis has for this kind of thing. He's very good at this kind of thing. Now, in reality, would it have worked? Possibly. Because the thing is, I only had 1 Pokemon left to go into on the red card, and that was my Chandelure. Now, my Chandelure outspeeds the Diancie and kills it. And then he has Mienshao to come in, and I can tell you now, he did not have a move to hit both of my Mons. This is why I saved Chandelure and Greninja. To mess with Scarfers who can hit one super effectively won't do damage to the other one. So I know that Greninja could live 2 knockoffs from the Mienshao, and that was the move he would have had to have locked in on if he wanted to try and win, because he was packing Close Combat and Brick Break in case of screens, knockoff, and I believe Poison Jab. I was playing as if Brick Break was U-turn. The result would have very much been the same. So it would have taken some switching, it would have taken some more misses maybe. He could have brought it back. It was very good thinking. But in a weird way, hacks against us actually ends up winning us the game. Which is weird. You don't see that very often. That has not happened to me since OG PPL Season 2. Shout out to Superfan missing on a counter on that one. But either way, we do take a second 2-0 win in a row, putting us at 2-0 going into the next game. That's pretty big, and it doesn't get any easier because next up, it's a grudge match. Next up, we face Ellie, Commissioner Ellie, the Shanghai Dragons. That is going to be a very exciting battle. I hope you can stick around for it. Thank you all so much for watching. Especially thanks to all the new people who are here. I know that we've got a bunch of new subs. Welcome. I hope that you've enjoyed this bout of content so far and continue to do so. Thank you so much for being here. It does mean the world to me that you're watching. But yes, we continue our journey through Draft League City's Mafia issues. Trying to take them down one by one. Can we keep it up? We find out next week. But I'm getting out of here. I've rambled on for far too long. So a final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I will see you next time. Laters.